Alex doesn't know I'm recording, but I thought this was an epic shot. Some beekeeping books and shit. What is that? Beekeeping hat? What is that? What is that in the back? A barrel?
Oh yeah, I have two barrels. This is one barrel.
Is that a regular size honey barrel?
No, this is an old wine barrel. This is the other barrel I have. You inspired me to pull out these. These are some sour beer projects.
Oh, amazing!
You put inside the barrel. I'm going to mix with some hoshigaki, dried persimmons, and raspberries, and some more honey.
Oh wow! Are raspberries and persimmon mixed with the honey, or are they all separate?
I'm just going to throw them all in together with the current sour beer and some more fresh wort and some more honey and some more yeast. So
awesome! Look at that wardrobe you got there.
This is my mom's closet, and these are some fermentation projects.
She doesn't use that closet?
She does, but I don't know if you could see my little projects here.
Oh, I love it.
It's nice and cool down here. This is an old safe. My house used to be a dentist's office, so.
What do you mean?
Well, see this old safe here?
Yeah.
That's where they used to keep the medicine. And here is the original door where it says private.
So just this part of your house used to be a dental office?
Yeah, the downstairs.
I was thinking about dentists earlier today. A buddy of mine who I played baseball with in college became a dentist. Mm-hmm. And I'm terrified of going to a dentist and having them tell me to like get an x-ray and stuff. And I think my wisdom teeth on the bottom might be impacting my teeth. Uh-oh. And I was thinking about reaching out to him and seeing if he would like meet me at a coffee shop or something and look at my teeth.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Just because he's a cool dude and we had a great relationship in college, and I was thinking I don't want to go to a dentist office.
Nice. This is where I keep all my bottles. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So all my old bottles just storing away.
So you got everything you need right here.
Oh yeah. It's just my little area. A little ferment area. It's my house is built kind of into a hill. So the downstairs stays real cool.
Is that what you want for honey wine?
Yeah, or any fermentation you want nice. Sorry.
We can do it with you upside down if you want.
Sorry, I'll stop moving the thing around. You probably got a headache.
No, it's cool.
Any fermentation you want like a pretty an environment between like 60 and 70 degrees. Just because anything too hot and the microorganisms will work too fast and throw off kind of some nasty flavors, and anything too cold and they won't work well and get healthy enough to eat all the sugar during the fermentation process. So
interesting.
zone there. But different yeast species, have different temperature tolerances. So it also depends on the yeast you're using. So
What's yeast? I don't really, like if I wanted to like a quick education in yeast, what does that mean?
yeah, yeast is like what is it? It's like I think it's like called an anaerobic, organism. And essentially it uses oxygen and sugar, and it multiplies, and it creates fermentation, and carbon dioxide um, is produced as it multiplies, and it has a life cycle, um, you know, in a certain length where it will, produce for. So that was a horrible explanation of what yeast is.
All I heard is carbon dioxide.
Well, yeast, they want to eat, sugar, right? And they need oxygen to live. So, and kind of like us, we consume the oxygen and sugar, and we fart out this stuff. And most of what the yeast fart out is carbon dioxide and alcohol. So,
Huh.
and man and yeast have been having quite the times over history, causing inebriation and that sort of thing. But
When
yeast,
do you have any idea? I popped open a later. I want to pop up a couple videos and hear you kind of maybe commentate on them. One of them is like a mead history. I don't really know if it's a mead history video or what it was. It's something that they had on CBS, Good Morning America or something. But like what came first, like mead alcohol or like uh, beer?
well, that's debated. I think some people think it's either rice wine or mead was the first one. I think grapes fermentation came next. I think beer was last, kind of. But some people say that the first consumed alcohol was essentially like some tribes people finding a trunk of honey that had filled up after a rainstorm and fermented naturally, and they drank it, and became drunk. And they say that was like the first time that people ever consumed alcohol was mead that had just been naturally fermented and sitting in a tree trunk. But
So just and they just thought, well, that's just water sitting in a tree trunk, so let's drink it.
I suppose so, yeah.
And they danced around and had some
Yeah, they
fun.
got wild, and they realized that wasn't water. It was some funky ass tree mead. So.
I wish we could go back and watch something like that happen as it was happening.
But I know they keep finding records. Like I think it's mostly in Asia, going back to like I want to say like 3000 BC of these advanced techniques of making rice wine, and what is it called? Um, Dogfish Head Brewery makes a beer called Midas Touch, and it's a mix of grapes, honey, and grain. They think that's what they used to do a lot back in the day, is just get whatever fermentables together and ferment them together, rather kind of like exclusively like we do now, where you just would, well, I mean, there's a lot of hybrids, but you would just ferment the grapes together or make a beer or whatever. So.
Have you ever tasted that?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's nice. It's a little different, but think it's worth trying. So.
Why did they name it Midas Touch? What? I don't understand that.
I think maybe that culture was known to maybe drink a similar drink when like King Midas was around or whatever it was. I'm not too sure actually.
Interesting. Well, I got a little intro, so I'll spit it out. I think the introduction has basically happened. This is Alex Taylor. We have to on today's show. Welcome to A Butter Life. I'm your host, David Butterworth, and this is a podcast about health, humanity, and rediscovering our playful nature. We have Alex. Welcome. What's up?
I'm excited to give it a test run on your podcast. I like your intro. Can you run that by me again? What'd you say? It's a podcast about what?
Yeah. Well, I was working on this last night, and I got pretty wordy a couple times, but then I brought it back to this is a podcast about health, humanity, and rediscovering our playful nature.
Nice.
I don't know. I think it encapsulates a few different things that might happen on this podcast as far as guests, and it gives us the freedom to talk about a lot of things, I think.
Sure.
So, Alex Taylor, just before we start, tell us a story about how this happened, why you're on this show, and what led to this.
Well, I guess about the topic of me getting into fermentation, if that's what you mean. I was actually traveling in Australia and New Zealand with my brother for, I think, what ended up being about 4 months. And we were drinking a lot of beer through those countries, just kind of going to a lot of wineries, like kind of small scale operations. And, you know, talking to the people who are making the products. And I thought they're really, you know, very creative and kind of inspired me in a way. And on that trip, I actually injured my knee playing in a pickup basketball game. And coming home and realizing I was going to have to go through surgery and a long rehab process, I wanted kind of something to do. So I wouldn't go crazy because it was about going to be a year, you know, between my surgery and the rehab of not, you know, really being able to be active. So I started fermenting beer and started getting into mead, or what's called honey wine. And I also ferment sour beer as well.
So you needed something to do, and you invented fermentation or experimenting with fermentation. Is that something to do?
Right. Yeah, and ever since then, I think that was 2012, so about 7 years ago, I've always had something bubbling away in my closet. You know, some kind of liquid fermenting in a vessel somewhere. So, and I just enjoy it. I like checking in, you know, seeing if my ideas, you know, came to fruition, or if it's different, if I could add something, and you know, just like packaging it away, you know, and letting people try it, and people who are interested in that, and, you know, giving it away, or you know, anybody express interest, I want them to give it a try, whether they like it or not, really.
Well, I remember the first time you gave me a bottle to try with my wife. We rode our bikes to a park, not far from our house, and we were sitting there. The sun was setting. We popped open one of your homemade bottles. You even had a label, I think, like a self-created label. But we
Yeah,
popped it open. We drank it. It was a pretty romantic evening. That was the first time I drank some of your wine. It was pretty good.
that's great. Yeah, honey wine. It's actually originally meant to be drunk on your honeymoon. That's where the term honeymoon comes from. Is they were given, I think it was in medieval times or something. The gift, if you're getting married, was they would give you a moon cycle worth of honey wine for you to drink, and it was supposed to increase your fertility and your chances of having a boy.
So we run around talking about honeymoons. I don't think anyone really knows that. I've never heard
Yeah,
anyone talk about that.
no. And I usually always like if it's a wedding gift or somebody invites me to their wedding, I'll try to give them some honey wine and kind of tell them the story. Like, hey, bring this on to your honeymoon and have a nice time. So,
That's amazing. What's a moon cycle worth? What does that mean?
I think it's like is essentially the cycle of a woman's you know period. Lasts for
Got it.
like a moon. And that's how long you're supposed to try to procreate or whatever.
So at any point during that cycle, you can drink this wine that they have, this honey wine.
Supposed to
And
do it during the whole. They give you enough for 30 days worth. You're supposed to drink it like every night, and at least that's how I understood it.
that sounds like a shit ton of honey wine. How much are you giving them?
I don't know, maybe like a bottle, maybe a case, like a 30 bottles, split a bottle a night or something like
That's
that.
awesome. It's pretty constant. It's pretty. What's the alcohol content? It's different than like a beer, right?
It depends on, how much you want to put in there, really. You can have, I've drunk, 5% meads. I've drunk 18% meads. I usually, mine come in the middle there around like 9, 10, 11%. But I also don't, I kind of call mine table meads. Like I don't really measure that alcohol percentage. Like I have an idea, but
Got it.
it's not something I super really care about. So
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you did want to come in at a certain level, do you kind of have a game plan as to how you could do that, or I mean, I know you don't really care, but like, is there a kind of a science to it?
yeah, definitely. I usually use about what comes out to about 3 pounds of honey per gallon of water. So if I was going to make 1 gallon of mead, I would use 3 pounds of honey, which usually gives me a starting gravity of about 1.100, let's call it. Which the starting gravity of water is just 1.000. So we're adding a lot of sugar into that, 3 pounds of honey and just to that 1 gallon of water. So it brings it up quite a bit. So there's a lot of sugar in there for the yeast to try and consume. That's why I don't like to put in, 15, like try to get it up to 15%, because then the yeast has to do so much work. And there's a lot of nasty flavors thrown off in the fermentation process.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of aging and really perfect fermentation type atmosphere to really create a good flavor if you're going really high percentage. So I try and be around the 10% range for mine. So, but yeah, you can definitely figure out, based on the yeast, if it's a dry mead yeast, it's gonna, almost like a champagne. It's gonna eat all the sugar and it's gonna taste really dry. or you can leave it a little sweeter, where the yeast won't eat all the sugar; it'll eat most of it, but leave a little bit of that sweetness in there. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for, what you like. I kind of tend to like a semi-sweet product, but I don't know. You can always blend your meads too. Like if you have a really dry one and a really sweet one, you blend them together. Maybe throw some fruit on there, or some spices, or whatever you want to. So.
Is that something that's like special with meads, or can you do that kind of thing with like wines and such too?
Oh, you can do it with any kind of alcohol. I would say that honey is a pretty good base flavor to build in some of those other flavor characteristics, be it from fruit, or vanilla, or whatever it might be. A wine is kind of a pretty bold flavor in itself. So. But people do, beer wine hybrid mixes and all that kind of thing. So.
Is that kind of a general rule that the higher percentage alcohol something is, the harder it is to keep like a flavor to it, and that the lower percentage alcohol, the more you can let the flavor of something come through? Is that true for like all alcohols, or?
I don't know. I think it would just be a little bit more difficult to create that really good. I would say the more sugar you're working with, the harder it is to really create a great product, because it might have a really big alcohol bite on it. That the more the yeast have to ferment the sugar, again, it just creates more stress on the yeast, and it might not create as healthy of a product. So at least that's been my experience. I just ferment in my little basement here. Some people have temperature controlled basements. They can keep it at 65 degrees, year round. But what I work with, fluctuates, maybe 15 degrees throughout the year. So
You strike me as more of a kind of go by feeling kind of guy. So like less of a, hey, I got it all down to a science. There's so many factors involved anyway. It strikes me that you're more of a kind of feel it out kind of person.
yeah, well, that's what's cool about fermentation, is you never really know what's going to happen. You just kind of try to create the most, sanitary environment for the yeast, and try to find the best products to put in there. I mean, what I can control is to try to find the best honey that I can, and with it, fortunately here in Auburn, my water's really good, so I'm putting in some good water, and with that, I try and find the best liquid yeast that's fresh and refrigerated, and I try to keep all my fermentation vessels as clean as possible, and my airlocks here, clean, and try and create a good environment and see what happens. Taste it out, and hopefully it tastes good.
You're like a mad scientist to me. Like so you have a day job, right? Like this isn't all you do. Don't you have a day job?
I do have a day job. Luckily enough, I'm not doing that right now because it's the middle of the day. And it's, what is it, Thursday?
Me too.
Thursday at 12:30, and it's certainly not my lunch break. No, I think we've been teaching together for the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, David.
Pretty good time teaching with you, I think.
I think so too.
I'm pulling up something that you reminded me of because I just thought of it. A lot of people have this idea, I think, that if you drink alcohol that has a lot of sugar in it, that you're more likely to get like hangovers and stuff.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've heard that or what you think of that, but I've dug up some research that suggests, some information that suggests the opposite of that.
How is that right?
That if alcohol is made from sugar, like honey, wine, or like rum, rum's made from sugar, right?
Yeah, it's sugar cane.
That your alcohol metabolism is actually faster, and you'll metabolize that alcohol more quickly, and have actually a less chance. I'm trying to find exactly what I'm remembering, but that you'll have a less chance actually of getting a hangover.
Sure.
Do you know anything about that? Or?
Yeah, I think it's tough to generalize a lot of that stuff because if you're going to drink some, let's say rum, for example, if you had some really high quality rum that was made in such a way where they distilled off a lot of those nasty ethanols and stuff that you really don't want in there, that would probably not really give you a hangover. But if you drink some, Captain Morgan or something like that, I think you'd probably have a pretty nasty hangover. So,
got it. So I just kind of was remembering my own, like whenever I choose to drink more than a few drinks, it's not often, but I do sometimes, and I always try to drink a lot of sugar with it, or do like vodka with like orange juice or tonic and gin or whatever.
Yeah.
Like have things that have sugar with them, or I dump a bunch of sugar in it, just table sugar. And I don't really have a problem with hangovers, but I don't know. That's just my personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard competing ideas on that too. Like if you drink mead, you'll never get a hangover. And then I've also read stuff that says, well, like, oh, mead will give you the worst hangover.
Got it.
So,
well, this guy wrote something on some post, a forum I was looking at, and he said he was searching today. He found that fructose. He kept running into studies that show that fructose increases metabolism of alcohol by 80%. And so just like for, I don't know if this is true of all honey, but I think it's like typically it's like 70% fructose and 30% glucose, which is different than like table sugar, which is about half and half. Honey actually has more fructose in it. So I don't know. I don't know if that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And each different type of honey has different levels of fructose. And what is it? Fructose and glucose. And what are the three?
I think it should be comprised of fructose and glucose. Table sugar is sucrose. Sucrose is what's commonly called table sugar, and that's just 50-50. But I think honey is a little higher in fructose.
There's one type of honey. It's called sage honey, and it's mostly all like almost 98% fructose, I want to say, and it never crystallizes. It's one of the only kinds of honey that will never crystallize.
Wow.
I think it has to do with that ratio of the fructose to glucose.
So even if you stuck it in the fridge or whatnot?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good experiment.
All right. So how much meat are you going to be making this summer?
Well, I have some to bottle first. So after that, I'll probably actually make some in the fall because in the summer it's kind of too hot for for a really good fermentation. It's kind of gotten to that point where probably got to wait. I used to just make so much mead, but I've gotten to the point now where I make maybe 2 batches a year, which amounts to around 20 gallons. So, but with 20 gallons of mead, what's that? That's about 60 pounds of honey I got to track down a year. So.
You got a beekeeping book right there. Speaking of honey, tracking down bees. So do you actually kind of do all this yourself? I mean, can you like walk us through maybe give us a rundown on like start to finish making a bottle of mead?
Oh man. Well, I guess there's this thing called photosynthesis, right? And it, helps our plants grow, and our plants grow flowers, and the flowers produce nectar, which attracts the honeybee. The honeybee is the only creature that creates honey. Nobody really knows how it happens, but when the bee gets the nectar, something happens in its body, and it regurgitates the honey into their little combs there. And the bees, when they're ready to seal them off, they flap their wings to evaporate the moisture that's in the honey, and they want it to be less than, I think it's 18% water in there. Which once it's under 18%, then you could officially call it honey.
So no one really knows why they do that, and it's just kind of a mystery, and they throw up into the honeycomb, and then they make sure it's got like it's diluted basically to a certain level, and like
yeah, they know why they do it. It's to keep their colony going over the winter time when there's no nectar flowing, right? So they eat the honey throughout the winter. But yeah, nobody quite knows how the bee really, what process is happening in the bee's body when it takes in the nectar, flies back to the hive and kind of spits it back out. Something's, I guess, happening in its gut or something that creates that transformation. So then man obviously comes in and takes the honey. Hopefully they do it in a responsible way, but unfortunately oftentimes they take all of it and they give the bees corn sugar to eat over the winter, which biologically they're not set up to do, which creates colony collapse and whatnot, but that's another story. Anyway, I try to get the best honey I can. Mostly I get it from a lady at the Auburn Farmers Market here, who I visited some of her farms, and it looks like they got the really good operation going on. They're really nice people. So it's hopefully you can get the honey for around $5 or $6 per pound. Sometimes I'm paying $9 or $10 per pound if it's really good. And then honey is the only food product that doesn't deteriorate or go spoil. So you can, once you have the honey, you can hang on to it until you're ready to make the mead.
So a couple of questions came to my mind. Are there different qualities of honey in different parts of the world? I mean, I've heard that Northern California, Auburn, like the hills, kind of where Auburn is a great place for beekeeping and honey making or honey gathering. I mean, can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want some land where where stuff's blooming in the springtime and throughout the year, and some kind of food source for the bees. But I think anywhere in California really, or I think some of the biggest beekeeping operations in the world are in North Dakota, where the clover fields are. That's where some of the honey is just flowing the most. I know the most expensive honey in the world is out of Oman in the Middle East, which is called cedar honey, and I guess it tastes like chocolate. I've never had it, but it's about $150 a pound for the good stuff.
$150 a pound?
Yeah, it's out of Oman, and I guess it's up in the mountains, and it's this very rare bloom. And they have these old, beekeeping methods somehow. There's hallucinogenic honey out of Southeast Asia. I want to say it's in Vietnam, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, as I said, it's hallucinogenic. They had an article in a National Geographic recently. New Zealand's got some really interesting honeys. Tasmania, anywhere really, yeah.
Are you seeing some of these photos come through on your side?
Oh yeah.
I just thought it'd be cool to bring up some pictures of these guys. Are just fascinating creatures. So have you ever had any of that chocolate honey?
No. Apparently there's some kind of civil war happening in Oman right now, so it's dubious of the authenticity of it nowadays, I guess. But I would like to procure some somehow.
Wow.
Someday. I love bees. They're such cool creatures. People often think that they're wasps or get the two confused. It frustrates me.
So what's the difference between a bee and a wasp?
Well, wasps are assholes, first off. Am I allowed to cuss on your podcast?
You can say whatever you want.
Bees are really cool. They make honey. And yeah, wasps, as far as I'm concerned, don't do much for me. They just sting or bite you. Excuse me. Bees sting. Wasps actually bite. If a bee stings you, it's going to lose its life, and it probably stung you because you really pissed it off or threatened its house. A bee will never go of its way to sting you unless you're bugging it.
Interesting. I've taken a liking to finding a place where a lot of bees are, I guess, collecting nectar, and just getting really close and watching them. It's just like an amazing experience to me to do that. Get super close, and yeah, I don't think they've ever felt threatened. I mean, I don't want to do anything except for watch them.
Sure. Yeah, and you use it, like you said, you can always do that. And the only thing, if you do get stung in those situations, is if you're standing right in front of the door to their house. So, like if you have a hive, you're supposed to approach it from, the back or the side. You're not supposed to walk straight up to it. Because then they'll think that you're a threat.
Sure.
But it's even interesting if you get a beehive. They say you can like leave your dirty underwear out by a few days, and they'll get used to how you smell, and they'll kind of know that you're the tender of the hive, so they don't really bug you.
Oh, really?
When I had a hive for only 1 year. And the only time I ever got stung was when I was too rough, or like I opened the lid too strong, or if I, kind of shut the lid too hard, I might come and get stung. Like they're almost communicating with you, like, like that's a little too rough or something.
Wow.
But I never, as long as I was gentle and, took the frames out and, minded the bees, they would never, get angry with me. So.
Wow. Hey, hey, look at this picture here. Is this a picture of the regurgitation?
I don't know what. It's almost like they're just eating a little drop of honey.
Oh,
If you ever had honey on the counter and you're kind of by some bees, and the window's open or something, you'll notice the bees might come kind of licking up at it.
really?
Yeah, or if you had like a little, empty cabinet or something, and had it outside, and you took like a piece of honeycomb and stuck it in there, uh, that's kind of a way to attract a natural hive, is they might come kind of building around it or something because they can smell it apparently.
Oh, wow. What are these? What are these eyeball-looking things?
I guess it's their eyes.
Do they? They don't see like we do, though, right?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, let's do a little break. I want to show. You're obviously into mead making, but it's not the only thing you like. Don't you do some mountain biking?
Yep. Anything to feel the pull of gravity. I like to do mountain biking and ride my snowboard and take trips down the river, be it on a kayak or a raft or a canoe.
I thought it would be fun to show a video to you if you're open to it. You don't have to, but I thought it'd be
See it.
fun to show kind of like a surprise video to you and have you kind of commentate on it to tell us what you think. You up for that?
Yes, let's check it out.
See what happens here. Let's wait for the ad. Can you see it?
Sorry, someone was calling me. All right, yeah, I could see it. %, one of these guys yells "send it" during the process of this video.
What? I don't understand.
100%, one of these guys yells "send it."
What does that mean?
That means you're gonna you're gonna go big, apparently.
I thought this would be fun. I was blown away when I just that right there to
One
me.
more, yeah. If one more person tells me that on the trail, I might punch him in the face next time too. By the way, but
That's funny because when we're playing wild ball in the living room, like kicking the soccer ball around, I'll go, Bricks, send it over here. Send it. But it's obviously a different context.
yeah.
Something happened here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. Every time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Man, looks like some nice dirt and those beautiful rolling hills. Guys just flowing it. Oh, cow. That's it. That's it.
This looks like it's in Petaluma or something.
I mean, like, I'm definitely not. Whoa. I've never seen this video. I don't know where it is, but it's beautiful, like most mountain bike locations. I've never done
Obviously,
anything.
someone spent a lot of time on crafting this trail, right?
Oh yeah, I've never done. I couldn't do a trail like this. That's I don't really do those big jump sections. I'd like to be able to, but it's a lot of practice, and we have to have access to a place like that too.
How
Holy
long?
cow!
This guy's been doing this a long time, right?
Oh
Probably.
yeah. Is this just one run? Oh, is he still going? He's got to be exhausted.
So you're not usually going this long?
Well, not with all those jumps and flips and 360s and whatnot. Oh, huh. I wonder if that's one of the Athertons and if they're in like Wales or England or something.
Hmm.
That was a cool shot.
All right.
Drone pilot.
So let's bring in another video I got here for you. This one's about mead. It's some Good Morning America thing I was telling you about.
Is wine made from honey instead of grapes. We're dependent upon that.
At the hydromeadery in Northern California, Gordon Hull gathers honey to make a dry, sparkling mead that could be mistaken for champagne.
Without the bee, we're making grape wine or we're making cider or something else.
Near Santa Cruz, California, winemaker Michael
Met
Soames
that guy.
uses great vats of honey to produce mead alongside grape-based wines.
What's that?
Met those people at Hydrun in Point Reyes.
Really?
They make champagne style mead.
Sunnyvale, California, tasting room at Rabbitswood has become a gathering place.
Clear flavor.
Do most mead tasters have a mustache like that?
Um, not most, but it's definitely recommended.
Huge Sharks fan too.
Then you can get a little bit of that meat in your stash, and that you get the aroma, you get some of that flavor, for the rest of the day or whatever it might be. See, this guy knows too. Again, the video is like skipping. Can't really make out what they're saying very well.
Okay.
That's cool though.
Is it still skipping?
Yeah, I think I got to plug my phone in a minute here anyway. So
Yeah, no big deal. We'll kind of skip to the end here. Do you know rabbit's foot?
Yeah, I've been to some lectures that guy put on. Forget his name. I must have said it there in the video. But they're out of what is it, Sunnyvale or something?
That's what they said. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty. When you go to a lecture, is that like hit or miss?
What do you mean? As far as the information they're going to provide you with?
Yeah. Try to get out of this share screen. You see that?
That was a cool shot. I don't know if you can find it, but there's a really cool photograph in National Geographic, and it's like maybe 9 bees, and it shows all their faces, like,
Okay.
the human face. And I guess every bee, their face is very distinct, like a human. And like one of them had like an eye scar, or only had like one eye. And then they just shot like 9 different bees, and it's crazy how like unique each of them are. It's pretty funny.
That's amazing because you look at them and you just think they're all the same, or like same kind of like with an ant. You just think they're just all the same.
Right.
Have you ever seen a bee movie with Jerry Seinfeld?
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I like that. I thought it was pretty good. Do you ever think you're gonna take this kind of basement operation to a bigger scale?
Yeah, maybe someday. In the last few years, I thought it was a little bit maybe sooner in the horizon, but I don't know. I think right now I just like doing it, for myself, and for creativity purposes and enjoyment, rather than try to make a business out of it. But I think when I do dial in my process, maybe apprentice or volunteer with some local winemaker guys, kind of figure out how to scale it up, sort of a thing. Maybe start to acquire some more honey, some big barrel, 50-gallon barrels of honey rather than little 1-gallon things of honey. I think would be the process. So, but yeah, the big meaderies, I don't know how they do it, but they'll have like a 50-gallon barrels in their stockpile just full of honey. So I got to continue to make relationships with beekeepers and farmers and that kind of thing. So
Awesome.
But yeah, I would like to scale it up, and I don't know. My brother's is in the beverage industry, so he's got a lot of wherewithal about how to market beverages, stuff like that. So might be kind of a project with him down the road. So I see it maybe as kind of a collaboration project between family or friends or something of that nature.
Isn't that how a lot of these kind of smaller scale, operations turn into bigger scale operations? It seems like to me, like I don't know, like Three Twins ice cream, and I don't know, just seems like that's how a lot of these things start.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's tricky though, because with alcohol you got to have all these licenses, and it's got to be consistent product, and it's got to not explode, when people open it and stuff like that. So one thing with my mead is I don't add sulfites. So there's that preservative aspect. I don't think I'll ever add sulfites, even if I go commercial. So just want to keep it as natural as possible.
Oh, I love that. And is that just a kind of because that's what you ethically feel is important?
Well, I'm the number one person drinking my product, right? And I don't really want to drink sulfites. One of the reasons I don't really drink much wine is just because how the sulfites make me feel, or just the fact that they're in there to begin with. So, yeah. And also, I have theories on honey and the preservative nature of honey, and whether or not that needs to be in there. I think
Because honey preserves on its own so well.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have meads that are 5 years old, and they're better now than they were when I.
So because I recently drank a bottle of mead that was in the cupboard in our hot kitchen, like right above the stove. So it wasn't probably that we waited a year to drink it as much as it was where it was being stored. Would you say that?
Yeah. Well, if there's some residual sugar in there and it's hot, it's going to wake up some of those yeasts that might be dormant and create a re-fermentation, and who knows what those flavors going to taste like. It's probably going to recarbonate it, because the CO2 has nowhere to go once it's been packaged or bottled. So it just sits there and carbonates and probably create some undesirable flavors.
Got it.
You always want to clean store. Yeah, I need to plug my my phone in, David. Sorry.
Yeah. Do it. Does that mean we will cut it?
Yeah. Should we cut it and start back anew?
Yeah. I mean, I
I know I'm kind of like rambling. Maybe I should kind of relax and get some water or something.
Why do you think you're rambling?
Because I just don't like hearing myself talk incessantly, and
I think I'll tell you what. A couple times in the beginning when we were talking, I was like, "Dude, this is pretty good. This is really good stuff." Like, especially if someone was interested in, like, beverage making and such, or whatnot, or just like bee stuff. Like, I don't know why you don't like listening to yourself talk. You're pretty fucking good at it. Also, you're pretty mellow and easy to listen to.
I got
So
this
I don't
weird
know. Maybe this is a good.
wedding. What my hair's doing.
No, I mean, you're a fucking mad scientist, but that's why you're so special. Maybe,
All right, I got my plugged in, so I don't know if we.
Yeah, let's finish this up. I mean, let's keep going and finish it. I don't know what we got else to talk about, but I was gonna say, I mean, maybe this is a good chance for you to get over talking to people and hearing your own voice, because your mead could probably be enjoyed by a lot more people.
I'll show you one of the thanks. I'll show you one of the first places I ever heard about mead. And if you ever homebrew, this is called the Bible of homebrewing. It's called The Joy of Homebrewing by Charlie Papazian. And in the very back of this book, there's a chapter, and it's called Appendix 5, Making Mead. And there's actually a pretty funny picture of a drunk bee on there. I don't know if you could see it.
Hey, this is a good segue. I pulled up this little video of drunk bees. Can we watch it?
Sure.
I don't know if the video will work, but since you said that, and then we'll come, if it's okay with you, we'll come right back to where you were. But I just thought it might be worth bringing in.
Let's see it.
Let me share this screen here. This is good too, because I can get used to how to do this stuff. Let's see. Start sharing. Okay, tell me when you see the video screen. You see it?
No, not yet. Something happened, but I think my phone's kind of being slow. I could hear it.
We even have similarities with bees. Hives are complex societies.
Can't see it.
Assigned a role. Visitors are identity checked.
I wonder
think it's my.
I wonder if people who are watching this could see it. I'll try to give you a rundown.
Workers gather nectar and pollen. They are especially partial to the sugary sap of lime trees. But the sap soon ferments into an alcoholic drink.
Oh, they're getting drunk off fermented sap.
Oh, I can kind of see it now.
Affects bees much as it affects us. Their beeline back to the hive soon takes a few turns for the worse.
This video is amazing. They're like, can you see that?
Losing coordination. They lose their sense of direction.
They're like running
So
into
it's-
glasses and shit.
Those that stagger back not only have to land successfully, they have to pass the security check. Like bouncers, the guards.
It reminds me of that time I gave you my spent grain for my brewing, and you fed it to your chickens, and I was worried your chickens were going to get drunk.
Oh, that's right. That shit smelled so bad. I left it in the garage for a couple of days before I gave it to him.
Oh, yeah, it was nasty.
All right, well, I don't know how much of that went through, but I'll so can you show us that picture of that drunk bee again if you have it up?
Maybe it's not drunk, it's just chilling.
Wait, hold still for a second. So that's a pretty accurate characterization.
I'd say so. I think I feel pretty good after some mead.
Where do you? I mean, are you going to be doing this in 20 years, making mead?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What does your girlfriend and what do the people closest to you feel about this? Your girlfriend, your brother, your mom, and your dad?
Well, seeing as I have all my projects in my mom's basement, my mom's pretty chill about it. She'll always drink, like if I pull a sample, she'll always try it if she's around. And she always likes it. Sasha, my girlfriend, she loves my mead. She always encourages me to, you know, to make it, and hunts with fruit and ingredients and with me. And whenever we go traveling, or my family goes traveling, they'll buy me a jar of honey from wherever they go. So I have honeys from like so many places, and my family will like get me honey for Christmas, my birthday, because they know I like it. So yeah, everybody's super supportive, if that's the right word. And
What do they think of the taste of the meads that you've produced?
Oh man, my brother still says that the best thing he's ever drank in his life was this rose hip mead that I made. It was a mead with rose hips and oak cubes, and I actually still have a few bottles of that from 2014, I think it was. Yeah, and I've actually entered my meads into some competitions, into the California State Fair. I got a medal. Um, in fact, I have some ribbons. If I go find them, should I take those up?
So what you're telling me, you're telling me you get honey. Let me try to put this together here. You get honey from all over the world, from your family and friends, because they want you to turn it into mead. Your brother, whose job, whose career is the beverage industry, he supplies bars with beer, right? Alcohol.
Yeah,
Like he says it's the best. Your mead's the best he's ever tasted of any alcohol. Your girlfriend goes out and collects fruit with you, and your mom doesn't care that you do this all in her basement. It sounds like this. You should be doing this. A lot more people should be knowing that you're making this mead, and they should be drinking your stuff.
yeah, but I mean it's expensive, David. I don't want everyone drinking my stuff.
What do you mean by that? I don't get it.
Well, once I do it for me, and people around me like it and take joy in it. That's awesome. Now I have to like create some big thing out of it, where now I'm licensing it. I'm trying to sell it to people. It's completely opposite of my current interaction with what it is. If I actually was trying to grow it and introduce new people into it, now it's a whole different thing. I feel like whether that's bad or not, it's I'm not going to say, but I think it certainly is different.
So like maybe less fun. Like it would suck some of the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, because now I'm trying to convince you that it's amazing, that you need to try it. And right now, well, it's not costing anything. You don't even know what it is, but you can try it if we're hanging out, or if you know somebody who makes mead, or you know what mead is. There's actually a huge aisle in Whole Foods, a bajillion different kinds of meads.
Yeah.
But they're pretty expensive, right?
Yeah.
They just sit there forever because nobody really knows what it is. Do I want to join that pack of, like saying, oh, this is amazing, why isn't anybody buying it? Or I have to hustle to try and convince people why they should buy it. I don't know. I don't think it's really come into its own yet as a product to where people identify it. They hear the word mead or honey wine, and they know, they have a vision of what that tastes like or what it might be like. It's still kind of in the shadows a little bit. So
Are you like there's this endocrinologist who does PhD endocrinology, does some pretty mind-blowing work. I think he paints this kind of coherent picture of life and biology and nutrition and physiology and such. And he like hides, I mean, he doesn't hide away. He's just kind of relatively unknown, and people who know about him like treat him like a god. I mean, are you like the Ray Peat of mead making? Like, are you, so like you could, like he could sell a book on Amazon. Like some of his books are out of print and they cost like, I don't know, like 2,500, like you can't buy one of his books for less than $2,500 because they're not around. Are you like, could you because your meat is like so secret and so good, is that in itself almost creating a kind of a putting some like I don't know, it's almost to me like adding value to what you're doing, that you're not trying to get it out there with the Joe and the Jane meads.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto it. If you can market it in a way, or you can get it into the hands of people who realized how good it was and have enough of it, but not have so much of it where it was kind of rare, right? And rather than having to convince people that they need to buy it, they're actually seeking you out, knocking on your door to buy it, right? Yeah, that would be very easy. And that's, if that's how I could see it being something that made me
Sure.
happy. Or you could do it in a setting, some kind of rural setting, where people maybe can come out and interact with the bees, interact with the fruit and the blossoms, um, have it on some kind of farm. And then
What
you
if
can
what if
also have operation there in like a barn or something.
what if you had like people could stay overnight too, and you called it like a bee and breakfast or something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, now I'm hosting. It'd be cool if, you had like somebody, again, like a great friend who's a great host who, that's their thing. They want to do that out of it.
So
As
you could
far as
just
me being my thing, I don't think I would be that into that. But
right. Again, it like sucks the fun out of it. So if you could be like in your lair, like when I was a little kid, people asked me what I wanted to do in second grade, and I said I wanted to be a mad scientist. And I draw pictures like about like underground lairs and tunnels and like all my scientists, all my like science experiments in these like underground lairs. Like if you could just like go down in your lair and live there and have fun making mead and like and celebrating how cool this art is and just be into it. And then like you had all the like a team of people who did everything else you're talking about. Like that almost could be like a marriage of these two things maybe.
yeah, potentially.
Like and then even more like everyone would be like I want to meet this guy and they're like you can't. Like you're never going to meet this guy.
No, I like talking about I'd love talking about the product, um, and why I think it's good. Um,
But you don't want to go market it. You don't want to like go sell yourself or your craft.
right. Well, maybe you don't like it, and I got a $30 price tag on the bottle, and now you're saying, "Well, I'm not gonna buy that." But it's like, well, if you know what this is, and I don't know, yeah, tell you like, well, why is this so expensive? Well, there's a lot of like great quality product, honey, and whatever it might be went into it. Um, yeah, then well, I don't know. I guess that's part of business that you have to get over, right? Is you do have to sell and market, but doing it in a way that I'm comfortable with. I think. Um, I guess I'm still figuring out. So.
Well, I've had that thought about like, you know, like anyone who like has written anything or whatever, like Ralph Waldo Emerson or like Nietzsche or whoever, like anyone who's ever written anything that people end up, you know, at some point liking or reading or critiquing or for whatever reason valuing. Like at some point, like I don't know, like can you just be in your in can I just be in the corner of my room like writing and making art and doing amazing stuff and just like live my life like that and like be so in love with what I do, I just simply absolutely don't care if anyone ever knows about it. At some point, how does anyone discover anything?
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, that's kind of the cool thing about mead is has a longer shelf life, right? So you can make it and you don't even have to package it, right? You can just leave it sitting in a, you know, 5-gallon glass carboy for years, before you decide your mind up if you're going to blend it with some fruit or drink it as is, or does it taste good? Maybe I'll turn to salad dressing, or whatever it might be. So, whereas say you're making beer, well, you got to sell it in a number of months, and the clock is ticking, right? So meat is kind of cool where you can kind of make it and have a little bit more time to figure out what you're going to do with it. So
Yeah, and I guess too, I would argue that that people like you who are doing this because you just think it's fun, and it's chill, and you can have it for your family and your friends and drink it yourself, and like you're into it, you like it. Like that's the reason that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years there's going to be you're going to be the greatest artist in the mead world, that's ever seen. Like, because you don't care. Like, those are the kind of people to me that become those like the absolute, the artists of their craft. Like,
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to sit down with you sometime and drink some of this liquid art that we're talking about.
I think that would be. I would love to do that. If we do a follow-up interview or whatever, or podcast, maybe we can just sit down and drink some mead and talk and continue the conversation. I was gonna my next one, and we'll cut this pretty soon here, but I wanted to ask you if you have any funny drunk mead Alex Taylor stories that you wouldn't mind sharing. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but if you want to, and if something comes into your brain as a funny story, like.
Sure. I don't know about like real drunk stories. I mean, I'm sure I have some that aren't really popping into my head right now. But one cool story I was going to tell is in this book I was telling you about, in this chapter about mead. He talks about how every year he brews a prickly pear cactus mead. And he hikes up to this place that he calls Mead Mountain. That's the author, Charlie Papazian. And he buries mead every year on top of this mountain. And then, whenever the time he feels is ripe, he'll hike up with whomever it may be. At the top of this mountain, he will unbury his mead and just kind of do what you do when you're imbibing, right? Just kind of relax and take in the scenery on top of this mountain. So anyway, my girlfriend and I, Sasha, we go up to this meadow in Tahoe. We call it meadow mead, and we bury a bottle of my best batch of mead from that year every year. So we have about 3 bottles right now buried in this meadow up near Immigrant Gap. And there's a cool swimming hole with a waterfall that nobody ever really goes to. So we go up there, we unbury a bottle, and then we'll hike down to the waterfall and, drink and go skinny dipping or whatever. So
Your legend,
essentially
everything.
Just kind of make love down there on the waterfall. And it's
Wait, say that last one again.
We essentially
You still with us? I think you kind of froze over there. You still with us? You do have a great looking face. Not sure if you're still with us. I feel like with everything Alex says, his legend grows. I just have a feeling about that. See if we can get him back. I'll tell us, just in case this is still recording, I'll tell a story. Alex and I were talking. Yeah, I call Shaylin Honeybee. Been calling her that for the years. I don't know where it came from, but so I don't know what happened or what, but I was saying when you froze, and I was like, well, I don't know if we're gonna get him back, and I thought it was still recording, so I was like, I feel like everything that guy says is just growing his legend. So anyway, we'll wrap this up not too far from now. But you telling me? So, by the way, that sounds amazing. I was trying to get you to give me more details about that swimming spot, that swimming hole.
Well, then we wouldn't, then we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Too many people are down there, so.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes
We
something
try on a
cool.
weekday. It's nice. It's a fun little adventure.
Well, some of the stuff you're talking about reminds me of I think I might have told you this once, but there's like this bar in New York or Boston or somewhere it's like down in a basement. There's a store or a restaurant or something, and then in the corner there's like an old phone booth. And I might be butchering this a little bit, but it's essentially there's like an old school phone booth that you walk into, and you like dial the phone, like certain numbers, and then a trap door pops open on the side of the phone booth, and it takes you into a secret bar. And this bar on the up on the wall, it says, it's just like big letter. And again, I might be butchering this, but on the wall it says, "Please don't tell," or something like that. And so I guess so. And what happens? Like, it's totally secret. They don't advertise. They're not in the phone book. They're not on the internet. It's like, and they're packed every single night. And I guess you after 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. each day, you can call and you can schedule a reservation for that night only. So their phone will be ringing off the hook, and most of the time when someone calls, it's busy because someone else has already gotten through. So people will sit by their phone and call right at 3 p.m. to try to make a reservation for that night. And as soon as reservations are full, they're done. No more reservations. And so what happens is there's that sign on the wall that says, "Please don't tell." Well, when you've had a great time at this bar that's a totally secret place, what do you do when you go home that night? You tell everybody you know. It's the coolest thing you've ever seen. And
Sure.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of a cool story, but just how some things can catch like that.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about a bottle of mead is that you can actually take that home and share it with people, right? Which is also kind of cool. I don't know, if you do it in such a way where it's an amazing product because you put amazing things into it, and what you're tasting is reflects that, then people are going to want it, and there's an urgency to have it, right? So
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it with any product or food or anything. I think that's true. If someone's really paying attention to what that is that they're tasting and seeing and interacting with, they can feel everything that's gone into it.
And and I'm telling the story as the producer properly. I'm not making it more than it is, but I'm telling an accurate portrayal of what that product is.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I would like to get there someday with it. But in a way, I kind of already am, I have even though it's a small amount, but I still produce a product that people can try out.
Well, I've heard enough stories of people, and you probably have too, where they think they're going to some, mountaintop, and they get there and they realize that it was never about getting to the mountaintop. It was about the process, and you're doing it. I mean, that's what is really fun, is all the stuff that goes into it, and then if we can capture that and keep that, I don't know, maybe that's more what it's about.
Yeah, I was going to show you these ribbons I won, but it doesn't really matter. When I sent my mead in to the competitions, this was maybe 3 years ago was the last time I entered into a competition. I already knew it. I knew it tasted good. The people who I let try thought it tasted good. So I was like, well, let's have some professional people, tell me this tastes good. And when I, medaled, I think I got first place 3 years in a row in the same category. In this, what's the competition called? Some kind of Bay Area homebrew competition. And I was like, well, yeah. So now I'm paying these people to drink my mead.
Yeah.
I already got a small amount of it. Now I'm sending them 3 bottles. Thanks for the validation. And I'm really not going to enter into these competitions.
Well, you already knew, like you said, you already knew it was good. You already knew you had a great time making it, and you put your artsmanship into it. And I don't know, you're saying all the things that Shaylin and I want to somehow, or I don't know, that we're just like treasuring in the environment, like with our son Brixton, like how he grows up, like that if he's like playing basketball, like we want him to, if he's having fun, like dribbling it and feeling the ball and shooting it, like, and it's fun, like it doesn't matter if it goes in the hoop or not, or he wins a game, or like, it's just like that ultimately, like that makes him less of an artist and less of a person who can be present and passionate no matter what it is. Like if we can kind of separate from the outcomes and just be people who enjoy what we're doing for whatever reason.
Sure. Yeah, I like that.
So
how's Brix doing?
He's so cool. I'm
surprised he hasn't run through the back of our podcast.
Look at this shadow, by the way. What's that? So he was down. He went for a nap. He's 2.5. He went down for a nap when we started, and I just heard from Honeybee that they're going to a splash park. So I think when we wrap this up, I'm gonna go meet them at a splash park.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah, we've been having fun. Like before we did this interview, we were like from 7:30 to 11. We were just flying around this back room and outside in the back on the basketball court and like playing nonstop from like 7:30 to 11. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, yeah, I've enjoyed you having me on and talking about some of my creative outlets. And I guess it's flattering to be thought of as having some insight and some something worth maybe listening to or not. But
you're one of the coolest. You're one of the coolest. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't know if you're gonna post it, but Sasha said she would listen to it. And I don't know, maybe my buddy Sean. So
so maybe we could get like because Shaylin might listen to this on my end, and so maybe we could get like 4 or 5 people to listen to it.
Yeah, smash the likes. What are you gonna post it on YouTube or?
Probably YouTube. I don't know. Like my intention with this was totally to be a practice run. And I told you I'm getting excited about doing one next week with this independent health researcher, and he owns a supplement company, and he's like I guess he's like a professional hacker, is what he does for a living. But he really just gets to spend a lot of time researching health, and I'm all pumped about that. That's for next week. So I thought this would be a good practice run, but as we were doing it, I was thinking like this is I don't know. I think you're one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And I told you I told you a couple times this year, but like the fact that I'm going to be teaching somewhere else next year and not working with you is legitimately disheartening to me. Like I'm looking forward to going and doing what I do wherever I do it, no matter what. But it's kind of sad that I won't be able to keep working with you. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it was a good run. It'll be an adjustment for sure. To have a new definition of what coming to work is a little bit. But, Um,
Is
yeah, I think you seem to have a good pacing of questions and interjections or whatever you want to call them. So
yeah, thanks for the feedback. As a parting story, I was thinking, about 6 months ago or 7 months ago, I don't know when it was, but you told me there was a bottle, kind of like what you were saying, you and Sasha have done, uh, burying, I think of just treasure, like you're burying treasure in random places. Like you were saying, there's something you buried on the North Coast, and I remember you telling me one time you were
oh
trying
yeah,
to get you were trying to tell me where it was, and
yeah.
I really wanted you to draw like a treasure map for me, so we could go on an exploration or an expedition or a hunt, like me and Shaylin and Bricks, and go try to find this hidden treasure. Like, do you really think you could like draw a treasure map for that spot?
Um, I think so. The thing about that spot, which I didn't realize when I buried that bottle there, is the mouth of the Wallala River has to be open, right? So the water has to be flowing to the ocean, um, and the Wallala River has to be low. So if the river mouth is closed to the ocean and the river's high, then the bottle is essentially underwater, and I could not draw you a map. But if the river was down, because last time I was there, the river was up and it was
Okay.
underwater. But if the river's down, I could definitely draw a map,
Do you think
seeing
it's
as I
even?
could find it again myself.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, do you think with it being under the water at times of the year, like, is there any guarantee that it's even still where you put it?
Oh, yeah, it's still there. I'll definitely be able to find it. I could find it. I know
Okay.
right where it is.
Okay. Well, if we ever do that thing where we all go to Sea Ranch and for Christmas or whatever we want to call it, or whatever, Thanksgiving or whatever, like, if we're ever in that area at the same time, I'm trying to say, like, I'd love to be a part of that mission. Or I'd love you to draw me a
It's
treasure
fun.
map, and I'm gonna go by myself, and I'm gonna go try to find it.
It's funny. The thing that's going to make it harder to find is when we originally buried it, we found this log and it's literally like this big arm and it looks like there's a finger like pointing. So we took that log and we put it, right in like kind of the hill by this big redwood and just kind of pressed it into the dirt. And it's a huge log, so it really wasn't going anywhere. And it's pointing right at it. So that log's definitely not there anymore. So it's going to make it a little bit more of a challenge, but I still think I could find it. Uh,
I feel like I,
Otherwise, I'll just bury a different one and make a new map.
I feel like over the course of your lifetime, you're gonna bury a lot of treasure. I mean, I feel like this is like Count of Monte Cristo shit. Like
Yeah,
like there's a treasure hiding, and only one guy knows the map. And if you talk to that guy, you might have a chance. Otherwise,
sure. Well, my this book wasn't my actual only inspiration. This friend of my dad, Steve Oldham, really interesting guy. I went down the Grand Canyon rafting trip with him, and he had brought with him on this rafting trip, and I guess on a lot of trips he goes on, is he'll bring, I guess they're Nevada silver dollars, which are, I don't know, they're like made out of pure silver or something. I guess they're worth a lot of money. And then he'll put like messages and photos on like USB cards, and he leaves them for his grandchildren. And he buries them like on all these trips he goes on. And he essentially going to encourage his grandkids to kind of follow in his footsteps, throughout their lives and find like these mementos that their grandpa has kind of left for them, like throughout nature. Um, So like a few spots we were in the Grand Canyon, he went out on his own. He would like bury something somewhere, and he kind of would take pictures of like where it was and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Create like these little maps, which sounds pretty intense, but I mean, like, I would love it if my grandpa would have freaking left me a bunch of stuff like that. I totally would have tracked him down. So
me too. I mean, being too that we are, and I think a lot of people appreciate this. And if you don't appreciate it, I think if you do stuff like this, you do appreciate it. But like that, he's not just giving you a check or like a present or a gift or something. Like he's giving you an experience,
right?
Like that you get to go out and trip for this treasure. That's really, I think that's rad.
Yeah, and he's not giving me a bunch of money, but he's kind of with the that silver. It's like an investment. You can hang on to the silver, or you can partially fund this trek you came on or whatever.
Sure.
It might be, so.
Sure, but still, that's relative. The silver is relatively, in terms of value, that's relatively meaningless to me, in terms of the overall pricelessness of this activity.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of, do something like that of my own. Not that I'm sort of not, but maybe taking it somewhere else too. Anyway, yeah, I think I like adventure and imagination, stuff like that.
Sounds like you're already doing it.
Sure. It looks like you got some kind of magic elixir there, David.
If you and Sasha don't have kids, which I think it's a very good idea that you do for our world, but if you don't, then maybe you can leave some treasure maps for bricks or something.
Sure.
This is about 1/4 part orange juice. It's about 2 tablespoons of quinine concentrate, which I'm super excited about. And then I put like 3 tablespoons of table sugar and like 13 shakes of salt from a salt shaker, white sea salt, and I shook it up. It's pretty tasty, I think.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. What were you drinking?
I was just having a little road soda. Hey, have fun today at the Splash House.
Yeah, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it also.
Yeah, I did too. What's are you gonna have a sign off?
If there's a sign off, it'll be relatively spontaneous, just like this. So hey, if Sasha likes this and your buddy who you said might watch it, and if Shaylin likes it, and I bet Bricks will like this, he might. Then maybe we'll have a repeat. Maybe we'll ask you like that thing maybe we'll drink some mead and hang out. We could even do that on Skype, huh? I could get some mead from you, and I could drink it here, and you could drink it there, and we could do like a remote.
Yeah,
might be fun.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. Do something like that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. I'll see if the recording happened, and maybe send it your way before. Well, I don't know. Just this is the whole point of this is just to have some fun and ask some questions and celebrate whatever we want to celebrate, I guess.
Sure. Well, it's always great talking to you, David. I appreciate you.
Likewise.
I'll look forward to next time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe getting out on that rock too to do some climbing with you. So let me know.
Yeah, let's definitely do that.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm just gonna hit the button and say goodbye.
All righty.
Have a good day.
Adios. See ya.